February 14, 2020. Probably the best day my entire life. The whole day felt like it was straight out of a movie. I was sitting in a Lufthansa plane, moving to the United States, leaving Europe behind and ready to start my new degree at Harvard and MIT. Honestly, I've worked for the past 10 years, day and night just for this moment. What could possibly go wrong?
China has identified the cause of the mysterious new virus.
Harvard University is moving all of their courses online.
Students were told that they need to be off of campus.
Not knowing what to do or where to go, my friend Alexander suggested we go to Florida and stay with a family friend for a while until we figured things out. We thought that we would stay here for maybe 1 week or two, but surprise, surprise, we ended up being stuck here for the foreseeable future. And I know what you're thinking. Terrible, right? Having grown up in a tiny apartment in post-war Croatia, I had never seen such a giant and beautiful house in my entire life. But just like everyone else, I slowly started to get bored, so I started looking for some new things that I could do. As everyone I knew started picking new hobbies such as knitting, baking, or doing yoga, Alexander and I would sit and talk for hours every day about how we could make the most out of this weird apocalyptic extended vacation. By sitting, I actually mean chilling in the pool with champagne for some extra inspiration. And just like that, Alexander convinced me that we should start a company. At the beginning, it was all fun and games. Honestly, I wasn't even sure if we would actually go through with it. But one thing was certain, that was the end of our extended beach vacation. Whew. Okay, let's get serious. First of all, we needed a problem to address. So Alexander had this great idea that we could offer remote personal assistance to busy people and help them organize their lives. At the same time, news started to pour in from Croatia, which is my home country, that the economy was completely falling apart. The economy was so reliant on tourism that a lot of young people lost their jobs. Therefore, we went ahead and spent $50 on a job ad in Croatia, which within just 1 week received 500 applications. And I'm not talking about unqualified people. Some of them had master's degree in law, in psychology, in business. It was completely crazy. Seeing this reaction, we knew that we had a chance to create a real and impactful business. So we decided to go all in. A few days later, we started training in selection rounds for 25 out of the 500 people, and we picked a launch date just 4 weeks ahead. So yeah, 4 weeks later, and we have a total of 4 clients. And excluding our parents, let's actually bring that down to just 2. Anyways, we had already hired 5 people at this point, and I, a broke college student, had taken out a considerable amount of loans just to pay for their salaries. So at this point, there was just no way of backing out anymore. So we did figure out that our concept of doing remote work was perfectly timed because of the pandemic. And remember, timing is almost everything when it comes to startups. However, the idea to center this around personal assistants was really just terrible at this moment. Personal assistants normally help with bookings, with trips, with restaurants, travels, etc. But guess what? Nobody needs that during a pandemic when they're sitting alone at home. Knowing that we were just weeks away from bankruptcy and getting personally financially screwed, our only way was to get really innovative. And let me tell you, fear and stress are great motivators. As we had no connections in the world of business, our only way of finding new clients was cold calling and cold messaging people in Switzerland and the United States. It was a slow, frustrating, very humiliating process that was mostly just met with bitter silence. At some point, out of desperation, I even reached out to the CEO of Nestle's research department. And yes, I'm talking about the multi-billion-dollar corporation Nestle. And I asked him if he needed a personal assistant. Obviously, he already had like 3 assistants to handle all of his needs, so he had no reason to hire us. However, for some reason, he seems to have liked me. Or honestly, maybe he just felt sorry for me. But either way, he connected me to his HR director. Given that everything was operating remotely anyways, they decided to give us a chance. This initial income bought us enough time to operate for several months and continue searching for new clients. After weeks of desperation in a very bleak financial situation, finally, a CEO of a US-based company came back to me. He told me that his head of marketing had just quit, so he was wondering if we had anybody who had a background in digital marketing. Knowing that this was probably our last chance to survive, I simply said yes without actually thinking about it. And after the call, the first thing I did was Google what digital marketing actually means. We had about 4 weeks to start our digital marketing project with this new client. Therefore, I very quickly started hiring. Behind the scenes, it was complete chaos, but on the outside, it looked as if everything was running smoothly. This experience and the very positive feedback that we got from our client made us realize that we actually had a good future as a digital marketing agency. Therefore, 2 months later, we grew to 15 full-time employees, including graphic designers, web developers, SEO specialists, and more. Things started to turn around and we were suddenly making enough money to pay all of our employees' salaries. Even though we were not yet at the point where we could pay ourselves, this was a huge success because it meant that we could operate without outside investors. Nowadays, I transitioned out of the company. Alexander and the team are able to handle everything on their own, so I'm able to focus on my PhD and all of my research at MIT. Almost 2 years later, I can just laugh about all of these things that were happening back then. For sure, it was extremely stressful, but I think I learned so much for the future, for new startup ideas. Anyways, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. This is the first video on my channel and I'll be talking a lot about startups, about new ideas, about MIT, and so many things that could inspire you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Take 2.
Action.
Energy!
To improve our extended apocalyptic vacation. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I set this up a sharp. Ow! Alright, trying again. And I, a broke college student, had taken out a considerable.
Action.
Oh, action. Wait, I'm still on action.
How's the weather in Florida?
Pretending to be warm, although I'm freezing actually.
Hey Samuel, take 155.